everyone. Welcome to another episode of Jiujiteiras. I'm Babs.
I'm Katie.
And today we have a guest here today, Professor John Kelly. Thank you so much for being here. Just to begin, just wanted to go over a few little things. John Kelly is a second degree black belt at MXD St. John, New Brunswick. He's got 20 years practicing martial arts, promoted dozens of students over the years, has cornered many athletes in MMA, has competed in MMA, still actively competing in the local BJJ circuit, was ranked nationally in Taekwondo, is IBJJF certified, and hosts many referee clinics for students looking to referee in tournaments, which I've gone to one and they're fantastic. Also does fundraising for local charities in the community, such as Romero House. So giving back to the community, which is important. And officially the inaugural president of BJJNB, which legitimized BJJ in the eyes of the province and giving it official status. And of course, the last thing is, on top of all these accolades, he's also a loving husband and father. Thank you for being here today.
I really appreciate being here. Anytime I get a chance to talk about jiu-jitsu, I'll be there.
And just wanted to apologize for the audio as the noob. Forgot to hit the audio. Should be about 15 minutes. That'll be a little bit off, but then it will kick in because then I remember to hit the recording button. So be patient with us. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we appreciate you being here today. We wanted to talk about the importance of lineage and etiquette today.
Yeah. I was thinking about lineage there earlier, and to me, it's important just to draw inspiration, or maybe the opposite. Like, it's just like looking back at your family history, your parents, your grandparents, whatever. Just drawing inspiration from some of the things that they've gone through, or maybe they weren't great people and you want to avoid doing those things. So, but that's what I find with our own lineage at MXT. We go back from Jigoto Kano. Everybody starts in Kano, right? Then Maeda, Mitsuyo Maeda, and then after that it goes to Carlson Gracie, Helio Gracie, and then Hickson, and then Marcelo Bering, and then Max Strombini always puts in Junior Perez in the lineage, but he was saying like Junior was never his coach; they were like teammates. But he introduced him to jiu-jitsu, so he kind of like I want to show respect to him for that. So anytime I talk about lineage, I don't usually include Junior just because again he wasn't a coach, but then Max Strombini's after that, and me. So I just like to draw inspiration because like some of the things that the BJJ people have done in the past, you know, to put BJJ on the map and above the other martial, not above, but to get some street cred for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I find that we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And I love that old history and just the stories and stuff. So anytime I get to talk to Max and ask him about the old days and how people competed, and not even compete, like they used to do like challenge matches and things like that against other martial arts, and some great stories, great inspirational people. So to me, that's where the lineage is important. Some people don't have any, right, or they don't know it, and that's fine. We basically all come from the same lineage anyway, right, in a sense. So just, again, drawing on that history and the inspiration and stuff like that. 'Cause I find today, like sometimes the martial arts, I don't know if it's a North American culture or what, but we just try to sterilize everything. It's just, I saw that in Taekwondo too. People like, we're doing Taekwondo, screw Korea. We don't care about the Korean culture and influence. And now today you hear people saying about, oh, it's American Jiu-Jitsu. And like you're getting rid of the etiquette, you're getting rid of the history, and you're kind of downplaying all the hard work that people have done. So to me, it's like it's important. It's not I'm not worshiping Helio Gracie or anything like that. And but it's important to remember these things, and because if these people haven't done all that work and challenging themselves, and I wouldn't be sitting here today talking about jiu-jitsu, right? I'd probably be doing karate or taekwondo or something else. So yeah, so that's to me in a nutshell.
What was it that inspired you to bring it to like St. John? I know like you're pretty much you're the, you know, I would say you're a founder of
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu in the Atlantic provinces. Like,
Well, I was going through a divorce, and
Big life change.
big life change. And so I was a Taekwondo master. I had several locations, but I always wanted to do MMA. But back then, MMA was like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right? So I was like, man, I want to learn this stuff so bad. And I had lots of free time. I was literally living in the Taekwondo gym.
Oh,
I didn't have an apartment at the time. I was living, so I'd be like, hey kids, all right, have a good night. And everybody's leaving. And I'd go in one of the change rooms and throw a mattress on the floor and slept there. But good times though. And I just always wanted to learn jiu-jitsu. And so the only person at the time was Sam Johnston up in Miramichi. And I said, like, I can't drive 3 hours up and back. Do you know it? Like, who's the closest person? And he said, Craig Wilson, one of my students. He's a blue belt. He just moved from, I think it was Vancouver. I'm sure he'd love to have somebody to train with to keep his skills up. And, you know, he could teach you the fundamentals. So I would teach Taekwondo till 9 o'clock at night, and then Craig would come in and beat the crap out of me, teach me old school, hardcore jiu-jitsu.
nice.
And it was funny, you know, we convinced a few guys to come in and try it out, but they didn't really like it. But then there was a tournament. Britt Nickerson actually hosted a tournament at JBK Taekwondo. It was like I think one of the first ones, the first one in New Brunswick for sure.
Wow.
And I went and competed, and all these people, I got gold in the gi and silver in no gi, and people are like, well, where do you train? I'm like, well, right here. And they're like, it's a Taekwondo gym. I'm like, yeah, who do you train with? And they're expecting some Brazilian name, right? Like Craig. I'm like, Craig. I'm like, yeah, Craig. And they're like, wow. So then we started getting a few people coming in and training, and yeah, I just fell in love with it, right? So different because most martial arts back then were all stand up, and there wasn't a whole lot of grappling, and even judo, you know. Well, back then there was probably a lot more ground game than there is now, but yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot of grappling around. It was so new, it was so fresh, and then when Craig got busy, I started traveling to Sam like every weekend. I remember going like, I'm a grown man, and what am I doing this for? And then after you're done, of course, you know, like you feel like $1 million after. And I also had Mark Nolan. He was knew some submission wrestling and MMA and stuff like that, so he came in and trained with us too. And then Dave McElduff and I started training together, and we were going to like every seminar we could get our hands on. And then it was around 2008. Edgard Luque and Rodrigo Azange were teaching judo at Kyokan on the west side. And somebody was talking to them, they're like, why don't you join judo? I'm like, no, I really want to learn this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff. And theyey're like, people want to learn that here? I'm like, yeah, well, we have black belts in that too. So they started, and we started training with them. And I'll never forget, we invited some people down to train and to check it out. And I'll never forget, Dave and I are rolling, and when I look over, and there's Rodrigo, and he's putting like Dana Dixon, who's awesome, into like some like helicopter armbar. And back then, like, you know, Dana was winning all the MMA tournaments, and the guy's legit, right? And we're like, if Rodrigo's doing that to Dana, then we know Rodrigo's legit too. I think sometimes back then, you had to kind of watch out, because some of the black belts in judo, like, oh yeah, I got a black belt in BJJ, but you know, want to be sure. At that moment, we looked over, we were sure that they were legit black belts, and yeah. And then that was it. I was just hooked and just kept teaching and training, and did my first trip to Brazil as a blue belt, which I'm looking back now is nuts. Like, nuts. Like, I can't imagine what I was thinking at the time, because I knew nobody down there really, except for Edgard, and just got off the plane and went to train, and I'll talk about that later when we talk about the etiquette, right? Because you travel to different places, but yeah. So that's
That's awesome.
And Rodrigo is in Calgary now?
Edmonton,
Edmonton,
yeah,
okay.
Edmonton. He's got, I don't know how many, 5 or 6 locations out there, like quite successful. At Spruce Grove, huge gym, amazing, great teacher. Shout out to Rodrigo, awesome guy.
I've heard good things.
Yeah, no, he's a wonderful guy. Can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah, but then eventually Bayside Drive happened.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2012, March 2012. Yeah, I was teaching out at, well, how it started really was Tim Hayes. We were training in the back of his gym, boxing gym, KB Golden Gloves. Check it out, another shout out. And he was like, man, people want to learn jiu-jitsu. People want to learn jiu-jitsu. I was like, man, I'm like a blue belt. I don't know anything. He's like, just show them what you know, just fundamentals. So I think it was like a 10-week program we started. And we had 30 people on the mats that night.
Wow.
We even had a few ladies that first night too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
And just showing what I could. And then when Edgar, Luque, and them were here, I said, here, you guys take over. So Edgar took over for a while. And then they had like 6 months contracts. They'd have to go back to Brazil once in a while. So I'd take over again. And then in 2012, I wanted to teach in St. John, mainly kids. And so we started at JVK Taekwondo, another shout out. And we ended up having more adults than kids in the beginning. And yeah, just kept teaching every Monday and Wednesday until we moved to Collins Tours building in 2017. And now we're on Bentley, 2020, I think it was, right during COVID.
So nice to see the growth. Like, I remember on Bayside Drive and like starting with the puzzle mats. And, like, I kind of switch up my time between there and the one in KB, and then when we get our own little space on Westmoreland, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
We're a big deal.
Yeah,
cool.
we're not sharing a gym, we're not, And that was the goal. It's kind of a fine line sometimes when you're building your gym, because you don't want to get too commercial, but at the same time, just to survive, you got to build it and grow it, right? Because it's not that you constantly need people coming in, but you need a little bit of growth all the time. So it's hard because it's nice when you have those small classes and it's intimate. You don't have to worry about paying crazy rent. But then you're always, in the back of your head, like, it's almost like paycheck to paycheck. You're like, I want this thing to survive, so I got to grow it to a certain level. And yeah, but it's neat to see you go from puzzle mats and all that stuff, and
we get our first women's only changing room.
yes.
On Westmoreland, I was like, all right, this is awesome.
But yeah, and that was my goal too, because I was always nervous at the Taekwondo. It's like, what happens if they go out of business or they don't want us anymore or whatever? So I did that crazy fundraiser, raised I think it was $17,000 for all brand new mats, wall mats, bowl mats, crash mats. So then I was like, okay, now if something happens, I can go somewhere else because I have my own mats. And if I get kicked out, if something happens to JVK Taekwondo, then at least we can survive and go to a church basement or go somewhere because we have the mats to do it. So that was the goal, right? Just to survive and be independent and be able to keep going. So yeah.
That's awesome.
And what do you think about like the growth now? Do you find that people are interested in the lineage, like kind of where, even maybe not necessarily all the way back to the beginning, but just kind of like where we all started in St. John?
Yeah. Well, I find like a lot of the people that are like the higher belts, the brown and purple belts, they're like telling you, the white belts, you don't know how good you have it, like.
True story. I get it from Chris all the time.
Yeah, like, you just sound like an old person, right? You're like, back in my day, And, and I think the higher belts are trying to, like John was like a purple belt, and we had puzzle mats, and we didn't know what we were doing, and there's 6 people, and you roll the same, you do 9 rounds, and 3 of them with the same person, right? So, I think they're really pushing that lineage, and again, I like to keep that in people's minds, just because, Max has let me, teach, like here's a guy in Sao Paulo who's, a legend. He's like a jiu-jitsu encyclopedia, and to have the confidence in me to go, okay, you're way up there in St. John, New Brunswick, but I trust you that you're going to continue on that quality of teaching and keep the history alive. So I really appreciated that, it's funny, I get like, the guys in Mary Machine like, oh, thanks so much for letting us, do this. It's like, well, that's what Max did for me, right? So, if people want to do jiu-jitsu, that's my goal, to help them continue and to grow. And, I try to keep all the politics to myself and everything behind the scenes and all the other stuff. Just go do jiu-jitsu, have fun, enjoy it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I guess anyone not in St. John across the board, like, what advice would you give them about what to ask, or should they go check out their lineage, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said in the start, like sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's avoiding bad things. You know, like,
That's fair.
you know, like 'cause there's some guys that get into drugs and got killed and things like that. So there's always, like you said, sometimes you get inspirational stuff, and sometimes you get history to avoid. You don't want history to repeat itself. So
Right.
yeah, I encourage people to find out because like there's so many inspirational stories and people to look up to that or something to avoid. So yeah, look it up, check it out, ask. Like Nova Scotia, pretty much everybody came from Peter Martell and Kevin Taylor, right? Like they're the two crazy guys who were going to New York and trained with Henzo, and so everybody can kind of trace their lineage to Henzo Gracie and to Kevin and Peter. So yeah, check it out, right? Find out. Like Henzo's awesome. Henzo's crazy. I can talk about him all the time. I find he's he's funny.
I like that you say though that there's like the good family members and the ones that you know what not to do, because some people, I think when they first start in jiu-jitsu, it's like you idolize that black belt, like but there are black belts that aren't good people.
Yes.
And that's one of the things about MXT is I think it's like really nice to have you and to have Max, because I think you have like a lot of ethics and good values, and I think that shows in our etiquette and our space.
And I got that a lot from Master Lee too, my Taekwondo coach. I got a lot from him, and him and Max are almost the same, right? And it's kind of neat where my old Taekwondo coach, Master Lee, he comes from the Jiujiteiras school, and their philosophy was that if you fall down 8 times, get up 9, right? That's this philosophical thing. And on my brown belt certificate, Max wrote on the back of it in Japanese. I can't even pronounce the Japanese version, but it's the same thing. It's fall down 8, stand up 9, right? So, or fall down 7, get up 8. Probably screwing it up. A little bit nervous, trying to be concise and all that. But yeah, so it's neat how sometimes it's the same thing, right? You see the same lessons in different areas of your life, and just kind of gel together.
Yeah. I mean, it really shows. I mean, the community, the family. I know for me, it took me 10 years to get into jiu-jitsu. Christopher, come on, you gotta do it. And honestly, my own hurdles, but coming into the group, and it was so welcoming. Everybody's very supportive. So you really embody those values.
Yeah, I always say everybody's important. Everybody in the gym's important. And the other night we had a new guy come in first night. I wasn't sure if he was a parent just waiting for his kid or whatever, or if he was a new student. And I literally went over and was like, "Hey, be my partner." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And at the end, he was like, "Man, I'm hooked now." And I was like, "Well, good, because you are the most important person. Everybody else here is convinced they like jiu-jitsu. You're the most important person in this room, not the black belt at the front. You are, right? Because it's your first night here, and I want to keep that student for life, right? So, yeah, that's a philosophy. Everybody's important. There's no hierarchy. There's nothing. We're all human beings. We're all important, especially the people that come in the door, right? First night.
I think as an adult, it's we're choosing to be there. We're, I don't want to go into any space where I'm going to be degraded or made to feel stupid. Or, I want to be respected when I'm there. And
yes.
I understand people start new, and you're brand new. You don't know what's going on, but.
Yeah, with the etiquette, I think it's so important for people that are at the gym. If you see somebody new coming in, go right over, introduce yourself. It's just like anything, your first day at school, you meet one new kid and that's it. Whew, you're good, right? So I think it's important to, especially like you said, for adults, you're coming into this, you don't need to be there.
Yeah.
All right. So
and you're in pajamas and wrestling with people you don't necessarily know.
So I say to people how do these people take themselves so seriously sometimes? You're wearing pajamas, you're in bare feet,
and aggressively hugging each other.
Yeah, I don't know why people take themselves so seriously sometimes, but yeah, if you see somebody new, come in and introduce yourself to make them feel more comfortable. I remember years ago we used to your first class was always a private class. So, and that was good because it would introduce people to the class. If they had any questions, they wouldn't feel, that they're, interrupting the class or anything like that. So I think that was a good system to do. I'd like to push to start that again, just because sometimes you have no idea people are coming in. They just step on the match and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Especially when there's so many numbers too, like they get lost in the sea of people.
Yeah. And it's important too, because you might have somebody who's really timid and you want to make sure you encourage them to, enjoy themselves, but you might have somebody that's a little bit wacko and they're coming in and they might hurt somebody too, because we're doing UFC here. Like, no, this isn't UFC. They haven't done the research. They just think it's an MMA gym, and it's like, no. So yeah, I think it's really important to, when you get them in the door, just really find out what they're there for, and to make sure that they understand the expectations too.
Yeah. No, it's true. I know for me, like even just the handshaking, like I know I heard it from people, man, it was intimidating to do that. Like, especially over at Bentley, there's so many people. Yeah. It's like, I'd be like, I know a few people, and then I'd be awkwardly in the corner. I'm like, darn it, I'm not doing this right.
But I love that. It's like you go around, you're introducing yourself to everybody, and it's just creating that atmosphere where it's like, we all grow together, and we're all here to support each other. And like, whether you're white belt, brown belt, black belt, like it's a team effort to get better. Like, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
You can't do jiu-jitsu alone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's drills and stuff like that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's the process. You need people.
Yeah.
And I think that handshaking thing just kind of forces people to, which helps. It's good. That's just something I got from Brazil. I don't know if any other gyms do it. I don't know if it's just a Brazilian thing, right? But I remember like my first trip, and people come in and they bow and they go on the mats and they start shaking hands with and even if the instructors are talking to somebody, they kind of just interrupt, shake hands with everybody. There'll be a couple people rolling over there, same thing, to go over, shake hands, everybody all the way from top down. And I think it is important. It's an important part of etiquette to shake hands, say hello. And again, all those new people are going to feel a lot more comfortable and when they're getting strangled.
Well, one of the things I noticed when I did my yoga teacher training was there was a lady there, and she was saying like the importance of like touch, and I was like, never really thought about it, but like as people age and get older, like I think of seniors and things like that, like they don't necessarily have somebody that comes up and gives them a hug, and a handshake isn't a hug, but it's like that vulnerability of going up and introducing yourself. And I mean, when you think of society, and I just think of this all the time, is like no one really struggles with like flipping somebody off or telling someone when they're pissed or they're mad. But that vulnerability of going up and saying to somebody like, oh man, like, like this meant a lot to me or whatever, like that we're losing that a little bit. And I think that handshake at the start of class is just a way of keeping that, like that good vibe and like ensuring that everybody's like kind and respectful of each other.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a hippie way of thinking, but like,
no, it's true. You're letting somebody into your personal space.
Yeah.
To shake hands, and like you said, you're being vulnerable because it's easy to be angry, but it's a lot harder to show not affection but kindness or So definitely, I agree.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's I know, like just the days that I forced myself to go around and started to see those familiar faces and just know that it was okay, because it does take a lot for people to do that. I wasn't told like this is what you need to do. It kind of got teased after the fact, like, come on, you got to go around and like shake people's hands, but there was no like this is what you should do when you come into a club. So even if that's not necessarily a culture at other clubs, like those of you listening out there, it's okay to go over and shake everyone's hand and introduce yourself and
adopt that.
Yes, pay it forward.
Because any clubs out there, like again, like you get that new student come in the door and somebody comes right over and shakes their hand, says hello, and it's like you're gonna have a higher student retention, way higher. Because I've heard so many people, even black belts, they go to these other gyms to visit or whatever, and nobody acknowledges them or says hello or anything like that. Well, then they're gone, right? We were talking about this the other day about, I visited another gym, one of the black belts, and he was just like, I went in and, no, like, I'm trying to pay you and give you money. And they wouldn't even say hi. So the guy, I'll see you later. So the guy drives 20 kilometers away to another gym.
Yeah.
So you never know who you're going to lose. That's why I say everybody's important. You don't know who walks in that door. And to me, it's kind of selfish in a way, and it might sound a little superficial, but you just never know who's coming in that door, what they can offer to the gym, Yeah. Like,
maybe they have a building he can move into,
Yeah.
Again, that's maybe a little superficial, but they just don't know what they can contribute,
Yeah.
and if you just kind of brush people off the first time, and even in the beginning, the first couple months, like don't brush anybody off. You never know who's going to be the next champion or whatever, next instructor. You just have no idea. To give people a chance, right? Give them a chance to come in and grow. But I've seen that before, and not in MXT, but just other gyms. Like, oh, that guy's kind of weird. I don't really like him, and it's like you don't know who that weirdo might grow into something good just because he's learning from the family of jiu-jitsu, right? And again, you just never know what they're going to grow into be. So give people a chance, and everybody's important, right? Give everybody that chance.
Yeah.
I've talked about it before too, and it's just like it becomes a network of people who like you build close bonds with. Like I mean, you get some of your best friends. And it's just I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of people on the mats that have held me up through challenging. You talk about your divorce and things like life struggles come up through your journey of jiu-jitsu, and the people on the mats will. Like they're there for you, and they sometimes don't even realize like that they're carrying you through a hard time. But it's just that camaraderie and that So.
Well, like you look at MXT, like we go to move somewhere or do anything, like hundreds of people show up.
Yeah,
and
grab a paintbrush.
Yeah,
grab a broom.
Yeah,
been there.
And even if you were moving, like if you come in the gyms that I'm moving next Saturday, there'd be 50 people there to help you.
Yeah.
So it's.
And even just the littlest things, like I know for me, like. Mental, like, we all have our mental struggles, and just that anxiety over going into the club sometimes. That's that self-doubt. Yeah. And then walking in and then being like, why was I so stressed out on the way over here? Like everyone was just like, hey, good to see you. Like, I could miss a few weeks and think, oh, I failed. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, but I got to go. And then you walk in, it's like you were never even gone.
Yeah.
And it's just like
relief.
Well, and sorry.
No.
When I went through my diagnosis of PTSD, like I couldn't go into a grocery store, but I was not missing jiu-jitsu.
Therapy.
It was therapy, and the people, like I knew they were there for me. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't have to go in, I didn't have to talk about what was going on with me or what I was struggling through, but I knew they were there.
Yeah, and they don't have to say anything.
My chin.
Oh, hey.
Yeah,
they don't even have to say anything. It's just
like those are the people that like you recognize later on. It's like without that community and like that support system.
Yeah.
Like, where would you be?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and I try to explain that to the kids too. Like, not so much now. I don't teach as many kids classes, but like, you're going to get along really good with some of the kids in this class, but you still get along with everybody, right? You're not going to invite everybody in the class to your birthday party.
Yeah.
Right. But you should still be able to, because some kid, I don't want to work with him. I don't want to work with her. Well, no, you should be able to work with them. We'll get through 1 hour of jiu-jitsu with them, right? Or do a roll with them, whatever, right? You don't have to invite them to your birthday, but, you still have to have that, level of respect for everybody and at least get along with them enough to do that, right?
Yeah. And people change over time too. Like you don't know sometimes how you're in a mood or they're in a mood or something's going on. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I was, like how I thought, now that I'm rolling with them or now they're, they've been here longer and, the commitment's there and, you kind of like let go of all the biases and things.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I feel bad that I ever had those thoughts in my head of, about someone,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Like I said about the people, you just never know how they're going to change and grow. And so give everybody a chance.
I think communication falls in play there a lot too, because there are people where I've rolled with and I'm like, whoa, like you're going to kill me.
Yeah.
But like that etiquette where it's safe to like tell somebody like, whoa, like, you're a lot bigger than me. I'm, this is what I'm working. Like, we do this, but like feeling that comfort of being able to communicate and say like, this is where I'm at. And,
I think that's probably the most important thing I was going to bring up with etiquette is the talking, because sometimes you have that gym enforcer and they'll go kick the crap out of the person after, and it's like they might not translate that beating to, oh, I was going too hard on somebody else.
Right.
So gym enforcers, you're doing a great job, but that communication is way more important because some people don't realize it.
Yeah.
And like I said, hey, you give the nod to the enforcer and they put them through hell for 5 minutes, but Then they leave and they have no clue what just happened.
Yeah.
They have no idea that you just got beat really bad because you went too hard with somebody smaller or whatever, right? So I discourage that. Talk,
Yeah.
communication, whether, it's during the roll or maybe get the gym enforcer to talk after,
Yeah.
like to explain to these people so they can learn and get the most out of jiu-jitsu. Because sometimes the people don't even realize they're doing it, right? And you put a beating on them and then they quit. And it's like, well, again, if we had to work that out, maybe they would have been a great student, right? Or a good teammate. So yeah, for gym etiquette, talk, please. Don't put the beatings on because nobody gets the beatings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the students on the side, they're all enjoying it because they're like, yeah, that guy's going too hard. And I wish somebody had done that earlier. But again, the chances of that beating, translating into what you want it to be, it's just, it feels good. But
At
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can say just partnering with Katie, like, again, I didn't know what etiquette, like certain etiquettes about communication. You just
Yeah.
kind of get intimidated and you're like, well, I should just be tough, or there's this expectation, like I can't say things.
Yeah.
I just have to do it. And, Katie would say like, oh, like my shoulder's bugging me today. Or like when I roll with this person, like we discuss things beforehand because, at different levels, obviously you can kind of do some of the different movements and things because I'm terrified about my knees.
Yeah.
Right. And Kay was like, no, you just speak up
both
and
Yeah.
like say these things. And I was just like, oh, I can do that.
Absolutely.
So, a couple of people that I do spar with over West Side, I'm like, I'm just doing this for like body movement and to learn a new language. And like, I'm not going to be competing. So just, there's certain things like I'm nervous about my knees. So
Yeah.
just not to be like wussy, but this is where I'm at. So if you want a different role,
Yeah.
like that's okay.
Yes.
Well, different people are there for different reasons. Some people are there for their competition and that they're in competition mode. I'm there. I like to compete, but I also like to just train regularly. And I've got a laundry list of injuries that I have, and I also have to ensure that I don't add to those injuries in a way that prevents me from being able to go in to work with employment, like
Yeah.
to pay my bills. So I think communication's like,
Oh, top.
like yeah.
And like I got that from Taekwondo. Like you did what the instructor told you, and that was it, right? But yeah, communicate. Like I tell people all the time, like here's a move. If you can't do it, don't. Like, even in the warm up or any technique, if you can't do it, don't. Like if it's gonna hurt you, like no problem. Nobody's gonna beat you with a bamboo pole, which we used to have years ago. Like, like just go. It's okay. Communicate that.
Here's a good question. How do you know when you're like taking it too easy on yourself, whether you're new or not, versus like when to recognize and then when to push? Because there's always this constant battle of like, I have these injuries, you're doing these things, but like, am I going too soft on myself? Or if I'm not pushing myself enough, it's like, as a coach, how would you recognize that in someone? Like, I think that person could be going a little harder, or, like.
I think it's a personal thing. Like,
Yeah.
like your knees,
Yep.
I can't tell you.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, no, listen to the body.
Okay.
Listen to the body and protect yourself. Like, I notice some people, like, they don't want to tap. It's like this insult or whatever. And it's like, no, like tap. I always tell the story, like Matt Tuff's giant black belt, and he's doing a smash pass where they stack you up on your shoulders. And I tried to somersault out, and I got my neck stuck, and I had to tap. And he's like, oh, I'm like, no, it wasn't you, it was me. I almost broke my own neck, right? So it's okay to tap, even if it's, you feel something uncomfortable, like tap, it's okay. It's not like an insult or maybe even like somebody puts you in a legal move, and you're like, oh, they're not supposed to do that. And it's like, well, no, just tap so that they stop. Like,
Right.
like protect yourself. And again, and that's another form of communication, like stop what you're doing, please. Right. So yeah, definitely like protect yourself and communicate. And I just don't understand why people do that. They'll be stuck in like a heel hook and they're white belts and they're like, oh, he's not allowed to do that. But I'm going to let him crank on it and then get angry after. Like, no, like,
Right.
like protect yourself, communicate, so.
It's not about the ego.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, forget about what they're doing. Protect yourself, right?
Okay.
And comes to that etiquette again.
It's good to hear that though, because there is a battle I'm sure across people in their heads, like, I've got to be tough. I've got to, like I want to do these moves, or, I
Yeah.
want to be seen as this. And they just build these
Yeah.
like boxes around where, like, what their persona is in the club.
Yeah. And to me, don't be physically tough, be mentally tough, right? Be mentally tough. Don't physically tough. Like, you get injured. Like, my knee's about to blow out, but I'm going to keep pushing. Well, now you're injured, right? Now you can't train. Now you can't go to work. But be mentally tough, right? Be mentally tough. I have way more respect for that than somebody being physically tough, because, not everybody can be physically
That
tough.
only goes
If you're
so,
little.
so long.
Yeah, like, especially we're talking about jiu-jitsu here. I get Matt Tufts. We're equally skilled, but he's bigger than me and stronger than me. So I'm not going to win that battle, right? So yeah, no, it's important, very important. Protect yourself. So etiquette, sometimes it's for how you interact with other people, but sometimes it's how you interact with yourself, right? To protect yourself, for sure.
Patrick and I have two different types of personalities, like as far as when he's rolling with newer belts and when I'm rolling with newer belts. So he'll sub them. And I think that's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
When I'm rolling with someone new, I usually just work position. Like they probably all think I suck. Cause I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't want someone to feel defeated. Like, and
Yeah.
I just, I want them to work position, but we've talked about that before.
Yes.
Cause Jill's like, you're going too easy on me. Like, but I want you to know when you're like in a position and you can have an opportunity to like try and catch something. I'm looking to see if you're recognizing like, oh, she's got one arm in, one arm out, like, and she can go for it, or like I'm looking to see and
Yeah.
testing that way. But it's just different personalities.
It is.
I guess.
And it's a hard battle because one, people talk jujitsu and you hear different theories and how people think about stuff. And, when I roll with Chris, I know he says he goes easy on me, but he doesn't compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
So when I'm rolling with him, I'm like, oh, like, okay. And then I go roll with like Bob, or I roll with you or whoever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, they're taking it easy on me. And then I had someone else say like, going easy on someone doesn't necessarily help them in the future. So then I'm thinking going, well, should I go? Tell them to go harder, to keep telling them to go harder. But then other people say, well, like you want to see, are you connecting the dots with those movements? There's an opportunity. Are you going to take it?
Yeah, because
Right?
I don't
So it's
want
that-
someone to feel like they're like
Just getting beat
over
up
their
all the
head
time.
right from the start. Like I want to see like and get you comfortable, and then I start to slowly amp it up and
Yeah.
But I think when people are first starting off, like they're trying to make the connection of like, oh, I'm in this position. What do I do? And like I want to give them a little bit of time to
Yeah.
make that connection, and then eventually I'll start to amp it up. But I don't go full tilt.
I don't
right
think there's a
from the
right or wrong
get-go.
answer, though. Like,
Maybe the
I think a lot of
mix of
times I always complain about North America, but like, we want everything in a box. Like, you go to university, here's your textbook, here's the chapters, do the assignments, and then here's everything that's going to be on the test. And then you come to jiu-jitsu and there is no path,
Yeah.
right? Like, you start and we're working on back escapes this month.
I'll
And
need that after my last one.
but and then so you're going to be really good at back escapes, but then you're going to suck at guard passing or something, because we haven't touched on that in like, I don't know, a few months. So that's from now on, that's going to be your weakest link, is guard passing, for example, right? But and then everybody's trying to follow this path. Well, somebody that came in during guard passing, well, they got a different path. Now they got to work on back escapes, or there's just too much material to cover. So to me, there's no path. There's no matrix that you're going to learn. And when you're talking about like, Pat subs them all, well,
I was really hoping you were going to take my side on this. Okay.
you're both right, because there's for beginners, because we were talking about, we want to encourage people to try jiu-jitsu, and you were talking about it like took you 10 years to start. Well, there's no right or wrong time, but sometimes you're not ready for it, right?
Yeah, which I wasn't.
And if you start right away, you're not ready for it, then you're going to quit. And I hear people say, "Oh, I wish I'd have started all the 20 years ago." And it's like, well, it wasn't here 20 years ago, so you weren't missing anything, right? But you got to be ready for those lessons. And what you're doing is great, because people do need that time. That's what I say about flow rolling. Like, you need that time to go, oh, I just made a mistake, and I have time to correct it, right? And then you learn, you retain it more. But and what Pat's doing is good too, because you're going to get your butt kicked. It's going to suck. It's like going to basic training where we're going to break you down. If you're cocky, we're going to break you down, build you back up. If you're not, we're still going to break you down a bit and then build you up. So I don't think there's anything right or wrong. There's lessons you're just going to have to learn. And if you join at the right time and you're ready to learn those lessons, then jiu-jitsu is going to be great for you. Like, jiu-jitsu is for everybody, but are you ready to learn those lessons?
Yeah.
Are you ready to check your ego?
Yeah.
Are you ready to have a 15-year-old, 140-pound boy tap you 20 times?
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? Is that okay? Right? Or, and again, like the mental aspect, like tapping and getting submitted 20 times in a round. Are you ready? Like, you got to let go, and it's going to be rough. It's going to embrace the grind, they always say, right?
Yeah.
But some people aren't ready for that,
Yeah.
right? But jiu-jitsu will make you better. Jiu-jitsu will make you a better person, but you got to be ready to accept those lessons. And not everybody sticks around for it, right? So
That's fair. I mean, like I said, it took me 10 years, and it wasn't until we started Rogue where I'm literally watching these tournaments like every 3 months and going, man, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And then went to a few classes, and then it was when I was driving home, and it was days after class, and I'm thinking about these moves. And it's going through my head. I'm like, oh, it's there. There it is.
She's hooked.
Yeah.
She's
I love it.
we all go through that.
But 10 years it took.
But now you're ready. Now look, now you're here, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it's wild. Like, even with the women that fight, they did the little, what is that called? The little highlight reel or whatever on like I was one of their people that they picked to do like a little write up on, and she asked me like what would I tell my white belt self? I was like, man, like it flies by. Like the time just flew by, and it's not about the color that's being tied around your waist. It's all those little wins, the losses, like every little piece of tape, but it's the people on the mats and the experiences and everything through it. Like you look back and it flies by. Like I remember when I started and thinking like, wow, like black belt's going to be a long ways away. I'm a brown. And I'm like, wow, like, yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh.
And it's wild to look back and think and take pictures. I know I'm always that person that's like out there with a camera and everybody's like, like this like negative, like everybody's going to get a selfie, but it's like, no, I want to look back
Document
on these
it.
memories. Like I want to look back. So
I have none.
No, see, and I like, yeah.
Those
like
few sprinkled that you see every once in a while come up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like, I think 2 pictures of me at blue belt,
yeah.
none at white,
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
and a few at purple. Terrible pictures. Yeah. So,
yeah.
so yeah, take pictures,
Take
document
pictures.
it, enjoy it. Like I laugh. You always see that meme about what a white belt jiu-jitsu dresses, and they got the jiu-jitsu everything and the tats and everything. And then it shows like guy from Ocean County. What's his name? I can't remember. Oh my God. Anyway, and he's a black belt, famous.
Kurt O'Senior?
No.
I don't know where he's out of.
Anyway, and it shows him, and he's just got flip flops and a plain T-shirt on. But I'm the white belt. Like I go out, and I get the tats. I'll wear jiu-jitsu stuff every chance I get because like enjoy it. Like be proud of it, and like take all your selfies and stuff, and take your pictures and enjoy. Enjoy it, like the memories and stuff. Because like I'm looking back and. I don't have a whole lot to jog my memory, and every once in a while, like, oh man, I forgot all about that. It even happened, like crazy times, and document it definitely.
Well, I always hear Chris and Patrick talk about Dutchie all the time. Their judo coach, and like when he passed away and stuff. And there's so many people that have him like so deep in their heart. And it's just nice to have those little like that memorabilia.
Yeah,
to hold on to.
that's one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to start a project where I do like kind of like a diary on YouTube for my son, but also for like anybody that wants to watch it and have all these memories about jiu-jitsu and all my travels and stuff like that. So at least he can have that because he's not going to read it, and it'd be better. It'd be better to have like it written or my voice and all that. So, but to share like all these things that before I forget them all, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I agree.
It's history. Like it's really cool. Like when Chris was doing his research for the book for Dutchie, I remember like, just hearing the stories from Patrick and stuff. And it was like, I actually did get to meet Dutchie, but like I didn't get to share the mats with him or anything.
Yeah.
But, you start to realize like just how good he was of a person from his students and their stories. Like,
Yeah.
it's just really cool to keep that memory.
Keep that alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I've taken it over west where I'm like, self-year didn't happen.
Yeah.
So when I'm there, I always try to take
If I've
pictures and
taught you
stuff.
anything.
No, it's important, right? To keep track and, so you don't forget.
Yeah.
Don't forget. And that's what we say, like, don't chase the belt, but the memories,
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
What would you say to somebody new coming in about that kind of long journey and like how not to get discouraged with like seeing other people get their stripes and their belts and just like where they stand? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, just train and enjoy it. Like you were saying with the memory and the relationships, like just enjoy it. Just come, no pressure, you know. Now, a lot of time I downplay competitions, and I know I want to like discourage people from being a world champion, right? But that's such a small percentage of people, right? And again, I'm not discouraging people from like striving and going for gold. But for example, I'll see people, at the club, and they'll go to one rogue tournament, and then they don't go for a couple of years. And then they go again and they get whooped, and then they're right discouraged. And I'm like, well, no, like I've refereed probably 30 fights of your opponent, 30 matches or whatever. And I've seen their progression. So why are you discouraged? They've gone to 5 rogues in between the last one that you went to. So don't put that pressure on yourself. Like come and train and enjoy it and improve. And that's it. Like, don't look at the person to your left and your right or anybody else. Like, enjoy that process, no pressure, like, because it'll drive you crazy, right? Looking at somebody else because, they got a gold medal or they got their next belt. Like, everybody's on a different path. I used to compare, like, we used to have, like, Mike, Joe, and Matt. And Matt teaches a ton of classes. Well, I can't expect everybody to teach classes like he does. And Joe competed at every single tournament. I can't expect everybody to compete. And Mike, he was doing MMA. I can't expect anybody to get in a cage. So, those are 3 people that are like equals, but completely different, right? And on a different path. So, again, I can't. And I was going to Brazil all the time. I can't expect you to go to Brazil, and train. Let's just, everybody's on a different path. So, again, don't look at the left. Don't look at the right. Don't look, across the ring and compare yourself to anybody else. Like, you imagine me if I'd have said, oh, man, I haven't won anything lately. I'm just going to quit. I'm terrible at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to quit because I didn't win a gold medal or I didn't get my next belt. We're, BJJNB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No rogue in the Maritimes.
No rogue, no MXT. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and I'd like to think I had an effect on other clubs too, like of growing in New Brunswick too. So just, imagine if I did that. Just, I'm not really good at jiu-jitsu, so I'm done, right? Like, because I'm comparing myself to somebody else, like, oh, I can't be Josh Presley, so I'm going to quit. Like, it's unreasonable, right? It's totally unreasonable. So, that's my advice. Like, just go train and enjoy it, and don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't put any pressure on yourself. Sure, if you go into 5 rogues in a row and you get tapped by a Kimura every time within 30 seconds, okay, you get a little bit upset about that. Fix that problem. But no.
Stuff to work on.
Yeah, exactly. But no pressure, you can't always win.
Yeah.
You can't, right? People, nothing's impossible. Yeah, some stuff is, sorry. That's life, right? So that's my advice.
Okay.
It makes me think a lot of like yoga. When you go to yoga, it's like every practice is a brand new practice. You can't compare to the time before, and you can't compare to your next practice, and you're not looking at the person next to you on your mat. I think your journey in jiu-jitsu is similar. It's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're progressing or you're not progressing, to just keep going. Like get out there, keep going. It's the only way to get better. You're not going to get better by like giving up and leaving.
Yeah.
So you have to keep
that's
going.
Defeat.
Yeah.
You quit, that's defeat.
Yeah, quitting is always an option, right?
Yeah, and it's like, again, I don't know why people quit because, that guy got his belt before me, or she's won all these gold medals and I can't. Well, so what?
Yeah.
Like what? In 100 years, who's going to care?
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's good to hear those things too, because especially someone new coming in and they're going for a few months and they're seeing other things. And again, we don't always take in the whole big picture. Like how many days a week is that person training? What are they working on? Why are they at jiu-jitsu? Like, what does it mean for them? Are they going to be competing? Right. So your level of what you bring there. And then again, that self-talk where you're like, oh, I didn't get my stripe today or whatever, you know? So it's good to hear that message. Like, you're on your own path. This is like yours.
Yes.
When it's ready, you'll get there.
I laughed. I roll with, we had this new guy in, guy's like huge, built like Captain America, you know, and I'm rolling with him and I'm 46, beer belly, you know, and I'm tapping this kid because he's, you know, going a little aggressive, but not hurting him or nothing. And I just see this like look of surprise. And he's like, oh, you're catching me. Like, why are you surprised? Oh, well, you know, like, don't let the gray hair fool you. Like 17 years on the mats, and I'm not the greatest competitor, but in the gym, like, and that's the thing too. Some people are great in the gym, and just competing is really difficult. And then vice versa. Some people in the gym, you're just like, oh man, this guy's terrible. And then you get on the mat, oh wow, you know, just that switch hits. But yeah, this person was surprised. And it's like, why are you surprised? Like,
Well, and there's all these different roles to offer to jiu-jitsu. It's not necessarily just competition. It can be that you're a great coach. It can be that you're, you know, an instructor. It can, like, there's the refs. Like, I remember when we went to WTF, the open mat in PEI, like, everybody's talking about Alex. So they're describing this tall guy. They're like, oh, I love this ref. And I'm like, are you talking about Alex? Like, he's ours. Like, you know, and I came back and told Alex, and he just see like, oh, he's like, yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, there's so many different roles you can offer to jiu-jitsu. It's not necessarily that you're always going to be the person that's going to go out and compete and bring home those medals. Like, that's obviously, you know, an awesome position. You know, I think of Joe Pilmer when I think of that.
Yeah.
But there's the incredible instructors, there's the coaches, there's the refs. Like, everybody's bringing, like, in order for jiu-jitsu to survive and continue to expand, like, all those roles matter. It's like the same as, like, I don't want to compare, like, any of them to, like, a janitor, but you know what I mean? Like, you need there is people who are cleaning the mats. Yeah. Like, everything contributes to
absolutely
to it working.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I liked it the other Friday. I did a class, and there was a guy watching. He can't train because he's injured. And after class, he's mopping the mats. It was like, you know, like contributing, right? It's not what you can or jiu-jitsu can do for you. It's what you can do for jiu-jitsu.
So true.
No, that's true. Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say on to the future white belts or?
Yeah, like just like again, enjoy the process. That's it. It's you get so many memories. I wanted to mention, like, we were talking about upstairs about the mental aspect and stuff. And I remember my first trip to Brazil. Again, I had no idea how to even like what the etiquette was in these gyms. And I literally get off the plane, and we're driving through Sao Paulo, and I'm jet lagged. And we get to the gym, and Edgeguard's like, grab your gi, class is going on now. I'm like, man, I just got off a plane. No, grab your gi, there's a class going on. And I get into that class, and again, I have no idea how to behave or act or, you know. And I'm rolling with this giant, muscular white belt. Looks like Thiago Silva, all tatted and everything. And he's almost passing my guard, but I'm like a blue belt, and he's white, and I'm in Brazil, and I'm just thinking, well, you know, I want people to respect me, so I don't want to, you know, and I'm fighting tooth and nail, and this guy almost passed. And in my head, I want to quit. I want to just let him pass. But no, you know, and I fight and get the guard back. And this is going on for like 5-6 minutes. And then every time, just I want to quit. You get that self-doubt. I just want to let him pass and get it over with because I'm exhausted. And I don't know, I just dug deep and finally got the guard back, swept this guy and armbar with like 3 seconds left. And to me, it was like, that was almost the first time that I experienced like what 110% is. You know, I'm at zero. I got nothing. Like, and you might say, oh no, you must have had a little bit in the tank. But to me, there was nothing left. And I pushed past that threshold. And, you know, it was a physical lesson, but translates into like a spiritual thing so much. And I never forgot that, right? I never always kept that because, you know, all these people, oh yeah, never give up. They understand it, but you don't really understand until you experience it, right? To get through that lesson. And that's one thing I find that jiu-jitsu, like we're like spiritual beings. We're stuck in a physical medium, right? And sometimes you got to learn these lessons physically to absorb it mentally, kind of, you know? And yeah, I'll just never forget that. And I was so scared going into these gyms because it was like I have no idea how to behave and how to act, or what their etiquette was, shaking hands and bowing and all that. And later on, I got to train with Claudia Doval. She was actually the highest ranked female in IBJF a few years ago. And I remember getting in to roll with her, and we're both blue belts. And I'm thinking, okay, again, if I go too easy on her, it's insulting. Mm-hmm. And if I go crazy, I'm going to get the beating this time, right? And so it was nice. Like, I had a great roll, so technical, and I didn't get a beating after, so it was awesome. Like, but again, like that etiquette, right?
Yeah.
And you, sometimes it's unwritten, and you just got to go by feel.
Yeah.
Because you can't communicate there. It's all Portuguese. I didn't speak Portuguese at the time. And so sometimes, yeah, just when in doubt, err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
It's better to go easy than to go too hard, right? Soft is the way. So, yeah, no, I just wanted to share those.
What is it? It's judo jiu-jitsu stands for?
The gentle art, yeah. The gentle way, yeah.
Yeah, because that, worry about ego again here, like male and female, like when you're sparring, like I've been very fortunate that all the men that I've rolled with have been, the ego's at the door, and it's just, again, it's about the training, it's about the jiu-jitsu. But what would you say to those people out there that battling that ego, like, oh my gosh, there's women in the club, and whether they're new or not.
Yeah, like, man, like, it's not a tournament. Nobody's going to make $1,000 for winning this jiu-jitsu match in the middle of class. Like, and you need those people. I learn from everybody. So it doesn't matter if I'm rolling with a little kid, a woman, a giant man. I roll the same way with everybody, just a little bit less intensity, But, yeah, like, and it comes back to, too, for those people that are too aggressive, if you're going with a smaller woman and you're muscling out of something, well, guess what? If you have that bad habit and you try to muscle out with somebody that's your size, well, now you have a bad habit and you're going to get caught. So training properly with everybody is so important, and not muscling out, because eventually you're going to run into that person that you're not going to muscle out of, right? So, no, I think it's really important. And you can't switch. Like, if I'm rolling with a little kid and I'm going to do my sweep this way, and then I go with somebody bigger than me and it doesn't work, well, how are you going to switch? You should always do the same technique on everybody, right? And I always want my techniques to work on everyone. So I'm going to do it as if I'm doing it to Joe or Matt or somebody, right? So then when I do get with somebody else, it's going to work either way, right? You can't go backwards. You can't go, I'm going to do a smaller version, and then in the mid-roll, I'm going to change my technique. You can't. Whatever you're training is going to come out. So always train for the worst case scenario, right? Just a little less intensity, right? But yeah, just because it's dumb, too, to muscle out of stuff. Just because you can, you bench press this kid off you. Oh, wow, great. Now do that to somebody who's bigger than you. Well, it's not going to work, and it's a bad habit. So, yeah, to encourage good habits, right? Good, proper technique. Not something that's going to work 1 out of 10. You want something that's going to work 9 out of 10. Right. So, yeah, no, definitely don't muscle out of stuff, right? No egos.
Be aware of it. I'm guilty of it. It's like this. I'm not breathing properly, or I'm pushing hard, or taking a step back, going, wait, I don't have the technique down here.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to muscle out of this because these people are bigger than me, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it is take that recognition of, okay.
and strength can improve a technique, but also ruin it.
Yeah.
All right. If you have poor technique, strength's going to ruin it. But if you have good technique, strength's going to improve it. Right. So it's, definitely. Don't muscle out of nothing. Just tap. And it's nice, like at Max's gym, your first class is always a private class, okay? And then you're not allowed to roll until you've flow rolled. After, I think it's 15 classes before you're even allowed to, flow roll.
Oh, wow.
And then when you do, you have to go with a higher belt. And there's no resistance. So let's say that new person catches the blue belt in an arm bar. If they can't hitchhiker and escape, they tap. So there's no pull. There's no resistance at all. Or if they're doing a sweep properly and you can muscle out. You don't. You let it happen. So the whole time that they're rolling, whether they're doing a submission, sweep, guard pass, if they're doing it properly, you let it happen.
Okay.
So they never muscle out. So
I like that. That's
yeah. So the whole time that these people are learning jiu-jitsu, there's no.
it's reinforcing good habits.
Yeah, and you can make a mistake, and because as soon as once you up the intensity on a roll, like just everything falls out the window. People are going defensive, and just surviving, right?
Yeah.
Off instinct, and that's not what we want. We want them to have the time to relax, think about what they're doing, think about what's happening, and so they can kind of correct things as they're going. So
That's kind of neat.
yeah, it's good, right? And like even when I'm down there, I'll go with the new people because he knows I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go crazy and help them out and stuff, and that makes it jiu-jitsu for everybody.
Yeah. So would you say, like, I know every club's obviously different, has different culture and stuff, but for a new person coming in, like, what would you recommend to them if they're looking at those those higher belts and going, okay to go ask them, because that intimidation factor too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was fortunate to know, Katie and Josh and Patrick and everybody that, I just was kind of like, sheltered into that, right? So
Yeah, some big clubs, like you can't ask a higher belt to roll
okay.
because it's like an insult. Probably because they're probably injured, or maybe they're just a recreational athlete and they're scared you're going to trounce them. I don't know. But that's part of their culture and stuff. But us, we started out so small,
Everybody had access to everybody.
Yeah, there's like 6 people, and one's a purple belt and everybody else is a white belt. So we just developed that culture. Yeah, go ask anybody to roll. It's not an insult, right?
Okay.
But yeah, if you are going to other clubs, like, find out what that culture is. Like, I know some gyms, when it's time to roll, they'll all line up and the higher belt picks their partner and they just work their way down. It's just cool, right? Which I find there's pros and cons, because when you are new, and even when you're not, I want you to be comfortable at jiu-jitsu. So if I walk over and I go, hey, do you want to roll? If you don't want to, don't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, protect yourself. Like, and it might not even be, maybe you and I just clash when we're rolling. It's not that I'm better or worse than you. We just, for some reason, every time we roll, you clip me in the face or I kick you in the head or whatever. And I know it takes a lot of courage to say no, but, do that. Like, you should be comfortable the whole time with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
All right. So, letting the high belt come and pick you, maybe some people don't have the courage to say, oh no, I don't want to roll right now. Or, I'm just too nervous to roll with you. Something like that. Right. So, yeah.
I'm always very nervous when I first grab someone that's new that I don't have any rapport with, that I'm not familiar with, because I think being a small female and a higher belt, they think, okay, like I should be able to go 115% here, and she's going to be, and it's like, dude, like, I'm 41, I'm old, I'm tired, like we just met, like what's going on? So I'm always, like, I do always try to grab new partners, and I'll tell them from the start, like, my shoulder's busted, this is up, like, let's go slow. And then slowly, once I kind of build that trust, I'm able to, like, there's a lot of new people and I'll say to them after the roll, like, that was a great roll. Like,
Nice.
Definitely want to grab you again. And if there's somebody there that don't, I just, all right, whatever.
Well, yeah. And
you go your way.
I wanted to touch on that too. Stuff keeps coming to me. Sorry.
No, this is
No, I love
good.
that.
3-hour podcast. But, I sometimes, like, the higher belts, I notice they'll almost like get insulted because the white belt goes too hard. And I was like, well, they're expecting to lose. They're expecting to get trounced. So they're just like, they're fighting tooth and nail. And, it's not an insult that they're going so hard, right? Like, some of them are just like, oh man, that guy is nuts. That white belt's trying to kill me. It's like, well, no, it's because they think you're that good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like you said, you want to communicate.
I'm not insulted, but it's risky.
No, but like some of the bigger, some of those big dudes, they're just like, oh man, that guy's trying to kill me. Like, what's his problem? Like, and then they put the beating on, which doesn't do anything. Remember, guys, the beatings don't help, right? You got to communicate. But yeah, I was just seeing in the past, there's like, oh, that white belt, he's going nuts trying to kill me. Like, oh, and it's like, well, but they're expecting to lose, right?
Yeah.
They're expecting, so they want to give it their all, and try to prove how tough they are
Tell them
in
to
a way.
relax.
So if you are the higher
the
belt,
people that don't breathe
yeah,
the whole time.
That's me still learning.
you have to be able to sing a song when you're rolling.
No, right? I had my first panic, like, under someone that was like 3 times my size, and I was just like, breathe.
Talk on the cell phone.
Right?
Sing a song when you're rolling.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Sounds good. I'll try that one next round.
Well, and that's good advice too. I noticed like newer people, not even just new, like, lower belts, and they'll almost catch me in a submission and they're hyperventilating.
Yeah.
Or I almost catch them in a submission and they're like, no, like the whole time you should be the same.
Yeah.
Breathe the same no matter what. It's like if you see somebody running a marathon, their lungs aren't working the same way their legs are.
Yeah.
Right? Your lungs are going slow, trying to get as much oxygen, and your legs might be going, it's like if you're even a sprint, your lungs are,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing. You got to separate that. And same thing when you're rolling. You might be rolling really intense, but separate the lungs from the rest of your body, and you're gonna be able to roll longer, right? You're gonna be a lot less tense.
Yeah.
That's a big injury too. Is like people are so tense. And I always use a really terrible analogy about like drunk driving. You see this drunk driver, they flip the car 17 times, but they're so loose, they walk up over the bank and they have no, they're fine. And then you're sitting at a stoplight and you look in your rearview mirror and you see somebody's about to rear end you and you stiffen up and you've got like neck damage for, the next 10 years, right? Because that intensity. So yeah, when you're rolling, it's important to be really loose. Like everything shouldn't be a bench press.
Yeah.
Everything should be loose and move. And, to me, it's like if I go to pass somebody's guard and I can't, oh, that's a brick wall. Well, there's got to be someplace else to go. There's no point in putting more effort and muscle into a failed cause. I'm going to find another way around, right? So, yeah, be loose, relax.
Sing a song.
You sing a song, yeah.
And back to the breath, like your breath actually directly affects your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes right back into what you were saying with like the mental aspect of jiu-jitsu. Is like if you're able to breathe and keep your nervous system calm and collected, and
Yeah,
then you can rationally make the next move.
yeah.
But if you're hyperventilating and your nervous system is compromised, then you're not going to be able to have that that mental detail to know where you're going to go next.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why people just start throwing their hands and
Yeah.
panic.
But
that's
all me.
But that's okay.
But I am getting better.
That's part of the journey of learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not picking on you.
And no, this is good. Again, I have no ego. I know. I keep saying I'm not going to know anything until eventually I know something.
Yeah.
It's just, it'll come. But like hearing these things and then trying to be like, right.
Well,
John and Katie said do this.
your brain with your breath is like you're right back to being caveman.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're breathing, then that's like you're chasing after something, or worse, something's chasing after you. So if you can calmly try and like in through the mouth or in through the nose and out through the nose, then that'll calm your nervous system. Make it a little bit easier to gauge what your next move is.
Okay.
Yeah. And too calm's not good. Too hyper's not good, right?
Right.
Yeah, you got to find that fine balance. Like, see, we're talking about me competing. Like, I don't win much, right? Because I don't have that competitiveness anymore. Like, I just kind of enjoy going out and rolling. Like, all that came when Taekwondo. Like, I used to compete and want to win. I was very competitive, but I kind of lost that. And with coaching a lot, it's like I'd rather see you guys do well than me. So I need a little bit more spark when I compete, right? It's just, yeah. I'm too far the other way, right? So I got to kind of pump myself up a little bit and, yeah, get more pumped up.
This might be a hint to our next episode. A little intro.
Competition.
Yeah.
For those of you that haven't started, have just started, and thinking about your next tournament, like actually competing in your first tournament. Yeah, that'll be the next
Exciting.
one. Yeah.
Well, it's always a pleasure to hear
Yes.
you talk on etiquette and our lineage and all things jiu-jitsu. All things. I mean, you're a very wise man.
No, just made a lot of mistakes. Made a lot of mistakes. Remember, trust the process. A lot of gray hair.
But it was all worth it.
Yeah, it's all worth it.
We appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you guys having me here. It's always an honor. I like to talk about jiu-jitsu and just put out there. There's so much negativity out in the world, and it's my goal to spread the love and positive vibes. And
Love that.
Join jiu-jitsu. Be
join
one of us.
jiu-jitsu. Yes.
Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode, but we'll catch you on the next roll.
All right.
Cheers.
Os.